Hello and welcome to MMOFTW Live here on MMORPG.com, a very special edition, a Firefall edition as we head into the open beta weekend for Firefall, of course. With me today, I'm Bill Murphy, managing editor of MMORPG.com, and down below me you can actually see Garrett Fuller joining us for the first time. Hey Garrett. Upper right-hand corner, as always, is Robert Graculin Lashley. Wave hi, Rob. There he is again. And the man below Rob, the man with the plan, is Scott Youngblood, the lead designer on Firefall. Hey, Scott.
Hi. How's it going?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
This is the most Brady Bunch-ish.
It is. It's kind of cool.
Live decks we've had so far.
It's pretty sweet. And notice I had Evan, our art director. I had Evan, our art director, actually make a bigger screen so that everybody has the same size heads, and I'm not like, you know, dominating with a massive skull. Okay.
Whatever. I think I'm getting old. I just look at Chris Metzen and I'm like,
he's getting real old, but he's been around for a while. But he's got a cool...
Chris is younger than me, okay? Let's just throw that out there. Chris is a little bit younger than me.
Yeah, but he has a great beard. That makes up for everything.
I know.
All right, folks, so those of you who might not be familiar with the show, MMOFTW is a weekly recap of the news that was in the MMO industry. And then, of course, we have a special show today because we'll actually be playing Firefall with Scott, and he'll be talking about some of the upcoming content in the game and the beta weekend and how the process is going over there at Red 5. So real quick, our rundown of the three topics. We have the BlizzCon date, which was announced for November 8th and 9th this year. BlizzCon 2013 is back. And there was also the somewhat shocking but maybe not surprising announcement that Diablo 3 is coming to the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, and it will be playable at PAX East. So we'll talk about that and what it means. And then, of course, we've got Dragon's Prophet, which this week released a couple videos showcasing some of their dragons and a subtitled video talking about the features of the game. It's the new game from Runewaker, who are the guys behind Runes of Magic. And then, of course, we have Destiny, which is Bungie's... They don't want me to call it this, an MMO shooter, but they don't want to call it a shooter. It's a persistent world shooter because they want to stay away from MMO for some reason. We'll talk about Destiny, and we'll talk about the reasons why they might be shunning the term MMO. And then, of course, we'll talk about Firefall with Scott. He might know a few things about it. So,
if not, I'll make something up.
If not, he'll make it all up. So, right off the bat, as you can see, Chris Metzen...
Well, we do half the time anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I do, like a living. But right in the middle, you can see Chris Metzen talking. That was just yesterday at the PlayStation 4 announcement. He's talking about Diablo 3 coming to the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. But before we get to that, let's talk about BlizzCon and a little speculation time. What are we going to see? It's been, this will be, last year there was no BlizzCon. This year it's back, and we've got the launch of StarCraft 2's Heart of the Swarm coming up real soon in March. Diablo 3 is out. Mist of Pandaria is out. What do we have to look forward to at BlizzCon? And I'm going to go right below me to the newcomer down there. Hey Garrett, what do you think is going to happen at BlizzCon this year?
I'm just going to point out that you called me the newcomer.
Yeah, you're
okay.
The youngin.
BlizzCon, I'm going to call right. I'll do my prediction, and then we'll see if it comes true. Diablo expansion, and the first look at Titan, which could be just simply a trailer. But they're going to show first look at Titan, and they're going to show the Diablo 3 expansion. That's my guess. And I don't have any inside track at all. No, trust me.
That's a pretty solid guess, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go right over... We're going to save the best for last. Scott, you get to go last this time. We're going to go right over to Rob.
Scott comment? Can he comment
I don't know. That's what he's here for. It's a talk show. Go ahead, Rob. Your prediction.
I think you're going to see the Diablo expansion pack. I wouldn't be surprised... see something else besides Titan, maybe WoW's expansion, because I guess it's 2 years since they announced Mist of Pandaria.
It's true.
So it would be about the time frame for them to announce another expansion for WoW. I think a lot of us kind of lost track of time because of that whole open, that open-closed beta they had for the longest time. If you had the annual pass, you got access to Mists. So I think that made people think that it's been out longer than what it really has. So I think we could, if not, we could see that, and maybe you don't see Titan at all.
Maybe not. Maybe not. There's no indication that we will, but I think everybody's expecting it. But we've been expecting it since they said it was coming.
Exactly. I think my best guess is that we're going to see definitely something for Diablo 3 expansion-wise.
Yeah.
And then other than that, they could go either way, I think.
And Mr. Youngblood, your prediction, sir.
So my prediction is, I think they're going to show PvP for Diablo 3. I've already played it. It's pretty cool. It's I want to play it online against other people. Last time I got to see it was in Korea, and it was awesome. And then they turned it off, and it kind of went away, and I want it back. My other predictions around other games, I don't know. You know, Titan's interesting. I just hope they don't ghost us with it.
Yes. Yeah, that would be nothing worse than another Ghost experience. And my prediction, I guess, to add on top of that, you guys, I think, are all along the same path, but I also expect that whatever Titan is, we will see it on some sort of console development at this point. I mean, which segues nicely into the fact that Blizzard is now going back to consoles, and right as Chris Metzen's telling us there, so very, very quietly on that middle video, that Diablo 3 is coming to the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. You know, when it's ready, of course. But there's already some screenshots out there of the new UI. You know that you'll be able to play with 4 people, either on the same couch at the same house with 4 controllers, or online. You've seen pictures of the new UI that shows how it works for the PS3 controller. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys make of Diablo 3 on consoles? Did you see it coming, or is this kind of just does it make sense now? Because let's put it this way: there are a lot of players who put the two together and say, well, this makes sense because Diablo 3 is, they consider it, I'm not saying this is true, they consider it to be dumbed down from Diablo 2. So they think that this makes sense because if it's dumbed down, that makes it for consoles. Of course, right? Rob, we'll go right over to you. I know you got strong feelings on this one. You tell me, what's the deal with Diablo 3 on consoles?
This isn't really a surprise to anybody because Blizzard's been hiring console developers for years now, and if you looked at their careers pages, you've seen they've been hiring people to do just this. So I don't think it was a surprise. It's a good move on their part as far as getting into that business. I mean, was it 98 with Diablo 1? You could have that on your PS1, so now you've got Diablo 3 on your PS4. Makes sense. I think this kind of gameplay really leans itself to being able to do it on a console because you don't really have to have a keyboard, especially since you've got all these buttons now.
And Torchlight was great on the Xbox Live. It was fantastic. Played really well.
So, I mean, yeah, I think the gameplay, the style of game lends itself to being able to do it on a console. I guess there's PC purists out there that are like, oh, I hate it. But you know what? This is the reality of they've got a huge market that's not tapped, so why not get in there and make the money when they can? Because they've pretty much sold their product to as many people on the PC as they're going to, and you're going to get people that are going to buy it for their PlayStation that already have it on their computer. Personally, I'm not a console guy. I just not a fan. I don't need to play video games on my Blu-ray player, and that's all my PS3s are, Blu-ray players. So if I did get a PS4, it'd be like, now I can stream video to my iPad from my Blu-ray player.
Woo. You can have that with Apple TV, right? Scott, Mr. Youngblood, what do you think? Diablo 3, PS3, and 4.
I think the style of game, you know, it's an action hack and slash, kind of a low brain power required to pick up the loot kind of game. And I think that's a perfect style of game.
Low brain power, I like that.
You know, it's like you don't have to think a whole lot. It's like, okay, kill it, pick it up, kill it, pick it up, kill it, pick it up, go back, sell it. More killing and picking up. So I think that you know, I played other games on consoles that feel very similar to Diablo already, so it doesn't feel like it's a big stretch for that game to exist on that console and be very successful. Now the real question is like, how do you navigate the loot generator, which is the auction house for Diablo 3 on a console?
Yeah, that'll be the fun part, and the money part if it works right, and how much Sony wants into that action. Garrett, your thoughts, sir?
I will start by saying Sony wants a lot into that action, without even taking a guess. I agree with Rob and Scott. I think Diablo 3 on a console is no surprise. If you look at Blizzard's job postings, the writing's on the wall. Diablo 3 is probably the first game they're going to test. They're going back to console in a way, and they're going to test this out, test probably the BattleNet system, and use it as kind of a preface for potentially Titan being on consoles in the future, which I definitely think will happen. I think it's going to be, gaming across the board for Titan, and we'll see it on all kinds of different things, similar to our next topic, which I believe is Destiny, if I'm not wrong. Bill.
you missed. We're going to touch really briefly, but we will get to Destiny.
Can we stay on the PlayStation 3 real quick?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay, Sony. I think we're going to see all of Sony's MMOs on the PlayStation 4.
I would agree at that. Although,
yes,
and I think they're going to start off with PlanetSide 2, and I think John Smedley was tipping his hand today, all on Twitter.
Yeah. When doesn't he tip his hand, to be honest?
Yeah. But I got a feeling we're going to see, you know, probably everything, all the way back down to EQ, because I know there's a lot of developers that are getting really excited, and I think that this is why. I think they're going to start streaming their service.
As long as I can play with a mouse and a keyboard, that would be okay. But
yeah,
the first question is why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not?
There's no reason not to, especially the older generation games, because it's not like you're going to be taxing the system.
Yep.
With a keyboard and a mouse, there's nothing preventing you from playing with people on the PC.
Absolutely.
It's true.
All right, the second topic of the week. I mean, it's been kind of a slow week minus the PlayStation 4 stuff, but we've got an interesting game. For those of you, this is actually from SOE. Speaking of, this is being published by Sony, and Runewaker Entertainment, the creators of Runes of Magic, are making a game called Dragon's Prophet as their follow-up to Runes of Magic. It is. I had a video all set to go, but it kept crashing XSplit. Damn you, XSplit. So I just put this this nice fancy background in there. This game basically is like Pokemon, the MMO, if all the Pokemon were giant dragons you could ride that breathe fire. That's the basic way to put it. There's over 300 dragons you can collect and train and fight with on top of all your normal combat skills and all this other stuff they've got going on. But this week they released a couple of cool videos about highlighting some of those dragons and highlighting some of the gameplay elements with some subtitles, because all the developers are Asian and they needed translators. But real briefly here, before we go talk about Destiny and all that stuff, why don't we hear, if those of you guys have watched the video, hear some of your thoughts on what you think of Dragon's Prophet. This is the first time we've really seen anything from it. So go ahead, Rob.
So I watched the video.
You did. And what did you text to me? What did you text me?
It was Pokemon with dragons.
Uh-huh.
And some of them dragons look suspiciously like dinosaurs and frogs. There was a dinosaur. He's like, this dinosaur, and it's a Triceratops. I mean, it's in all of its glory. And then he was like, and then you can go to your lair, which is actually pretty cool. It's kind of some of the things you see with some of the more sandbox style MMOs, where you could have like offline experience usage that harken back to like the mud days, where you could learn your skills while you're gone. Anyways, you can have like a stable of dragons, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you could have this dragon, and you look at this dragon, and it's like a velociraptor. So it's like, I think they got dragons and dinosaurs confused here. Maybe it should just be Big Lizard Prophet. But there was a lot of really cool things. It's action combat. So that's really kind of the
trend.
Yeah, like I guess a year or 2 years ago, it was dynamic events was the buzzword. Now it's action combat's the buzz. So this is falling in line with that. It seemed to have a pretty intuitive targeting system as well. So most of your things were AoE, but people would highlight different colors, and you would see that you had them targeted. It was whoever's closest to you. It would let you know if they're a friend or foe. The graphics were pretty decent. Had some of the big, Asian-influenced monsters. So if you like that kind of art style, it looks pretty nice. It doesn't look like it's running. It's running on their own in-house developed engine.
Yeah.
That they said they've been working on for the last 3 years, and then they talked about the fact that they went to German music studios to do some of the soundtracking, and I'm like,
why does it have to be German?
Yeah, I know. It's like,
is it all going to be Rammstein? Like,
I guess the Germans are really good about doing soundtracks or something.
Du hast.
Du hast mich.
I would play that game. I'm just going to say, Dragons and Rammstein would be cool with me. Scott, Mr. Youngblood, Scott, what do you think?
So if I were going to sum that up in one sentence, it looks like it's a combination of Pokemon had a baby with Avatar.
Ah.
Right?
Sahelu.
Like build your affinity with this dragon, tame it, make it your own, and then do cool stuff with it. That seemed pretty exciting to me, but what seemed more exciting to me about that particular video was the concept of socialization and being able to do cool stuff with the environment. The fact that they had these big floating islands that you can turn into your own base, and those bases have resources that are unique to that island, and that people can come to that island and pay you taxes to harvest those resources, is really interesting, right? And it's kind of taking things in a new direction that is pretty exciting to me. So I can't wait to see where they go. I want to play the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be free to play, of course, but shockingly, it's actually already in beta, I think, in Europe. It just hasn't hit over here because it's Frogster, I think, is publishing it in Europe. Is that right?
Sony's publishing it in the United States.
Yeah.
SOE's doing it here.
Yeah. And Garrett, go ahead. What are your thoughts on Dragon's Prophet?
No, I was going to say Infernum is publishing in Europe.
Infernum, that's it.
Andreas is
which is made up of the people that used to be Frogster.
A while ago.
Yeah.
I agree with Scott.
Yeah.
I was going to say that for Dragon Prophet, the devil really is in the details. I think the overall arcing mechanics are pretty straightforward. You're going to have pet dragons. They're super huge, cool. I agree with Rob. They look like dinosaurs and frogs. But, I mean, when you put 300 dragons or whatever, some ridiculous number of dragon designs in a game, you gotta go outside the sphere of you know, wings and horns. I do think it's going to be interesting, Scott, like you said. What can you do in the environment? What, you know, for me, the experience comes down to what happens as soon as I get on the dragon and I start flying around. The collecting and all that stuff is great. I know a lot of players love it, but it really comes down to how you can fight other dragons, how you can manipulate the environment.
As long as it's better than the dragon gameplay in Skyrim, I'll be happy. That was the letdown.
Yeah.
That whole expansion was like, yes, I'm gonna here.
Hey, Copacabana.
Hey guys, welcome back. As you can tell, we went ahead and started with Firefall. I apologize for pissing off the Skyrim gods with that comment. We're going to skip the Destiny talk. Suffice it to say, Destiny is a persistent online shooter from Bungie. They don't want to call it an MMO. It has been announced for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. You will hear more about that from us next week. We'll push that topic along because there's plenty of stuff to talk about. But since we got Scott here, we'd actually like to, you know, talk about Firefall. It's kind of the whole point of having him on the show with the open beta weekend coming in. So I'm going to log in here. Garrett and Scott and Rob are already in. And we're going to see what some of the new content stuff is. But while it's loading, Scott, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what you guys have been working on for the past, I guess, month or two since we had a live stream with you guys.
So what have we been working on is a great question. So
Everything.
We put a lot of effort into Firefall so far. We put some systems into the game, and we've been watching and learning how well have these systems actually worked for us. Are they doing what we need them to do? Do the end users feel like they're doing what they need to do? And is the game as fun as we could possibly make it? And unfortunately, the answer for us has been no. We can make it more fun. Right? And this is something that we tend to do as a company. It's something that we've really been focusing on with our beta and like how we produce a beta. And our betas are a little bit different than a lot of other companies do, which ours is not an advertisement for the game to try to get you to play it. Ours is an opportunity for you to help us make the game better. And you know, it's a new thing. You know, it's something that we believe in firmly. That we feel that if we do this the right way and we listen to what our community says, then we will make the game that the community wants, right? And that's really the whole point of why we're doing this. Is it's not for us to make the best thing that we consider to be some sliced bread and say, eat it. That's not what anybody wants. What we want to do is serve a meal, ask you, did you like it? And then say, well, do you want more salt? Would you like more vegetables? Or whatever the ingredients are that you think are necessary to make that meal taste the best to you. Then we're going to listen to that, and we're going to try to respond and give you what you want. You know, if you hate Brussels sprouts, don't eat Brussels sprouts. I think they suck. I don't hate them. You know, let's not do that. And unfortunately, there's been times where we've served you Brussels sprouts, but we didn't know that it was Brussels sprouts until you told us that you didn't like it. And that's part of our process, which is we try something. We try it based on, it's not a complete guess on our part. I mean, we're trying things for a reason, right? We always usually have a why of why we think this is going to make the game better. And so we serve you a better version of Brussels sprouts, but maybe this time it's asparagus, which is a much better vegetable than Brussels sprouts.
It's true.
But, you know, we don't really know if you like Brussels sprouts or asparagus better until you tell us, right? We can only guess about whether or not you like it or not. And so our process really evolves around listening to what our community says, what they do, distilling that down to, well, they say one thing, but at times they might actually mean something else. Because if you say that I hate being cold, but in reality you want to be on a tropical island, just fixing a cold isn't the right answer. Putting you on a tropical island is. So it's really about trying to figure out, well, what is it that the user is really wanting, and then trying to figure out how to give that to them. Absolutely. So a lot of what Firefall has been is about evolution of our ideas, seeing if those ideas are working based on what are they doing, what are they saying, and responding to their actions in game, and then trying to find if it actually worked or not, right? And it's really the community telling us if it worked or not. It's not us telling us that, yes, you will like this. That's not the way it works.
It's a really iterative process, and you guys you're listening to everything your beta players say. So what happens now that you guys are opening it up to so many more people?
Well, so the opening it up to more people has actually taken us quite a while. Like, we are still in what we call a closed beta, which means we're an invite only. We're not, letting the masses in. We want to make sure that we are serving a tasty dish before we let all the people into the restaurant, right? We're still trying it with a closed circle of friends and making sure that what we're serving tastes good. And until we feel like what we're serving tastes good, there is no point in opening the doors to the restaurant, because then you're just pissing off a lot of people. And that's kind of really how we're looking at the product is, well, we want to make a really great tasting dish. We're hearing that there are portions of it that don't taste right. Right now we're trying to fix those portions.
I like that. So let's go a little deeper into that. What portions are you guys looking at specifically?
So the portions, for at least from my perspective of how I play the game, listening to how the people in the office play the game, and then really listening to how the community plays the game, and then contrasting those experiences with our own, there are portions that don't taste good. And there are portions that haven't tasted good to us for a while that we're continually trying to make those taste better. And if you look about how we've evolved the game over time, and if you ask yourself, why did we change from that to that? Well, it was really about trying to make things taste better, but you're not always 100% sure if it's going to taste better, because you're not the one who is deciding whether or not it's going to taste better, right? It's the person in the restaurant who is saying, yeah, that tastes great, or no, it doesn't, right? Anytime that you're the person that's adding the salt, well, you assume that it needs more salt, but that's either right or wrong, but not from your perspective, but from theirs, right? And that's what takes time, because you have to serve something, let them chew it, either they spit it out or they don't, and then they'll give you some feedback on whether or not it tasted good. And so it's a very iterative process, and that process does take time to get it right, because the one thing that we're really keen on doing is making sure that we're doing this for the long haul. This is not a flash in the pan game. This is not something that we're looking to cash in, go to Vegas and say, woo, did it. That's not the we're looking to build something that has longevity to it, and the only reason that it will have longevity to it is if the community cares about it. And so that is paramount to what we're doing, is that you have to care about it, you have to want it, and it has to make sense to you. And if it doesn't, we're doing it wrong, and we need to fix it.
Now, I want to talk a bit about what you guys have been adding specifically recently with the beta weekends coming up. We're doing one right now. Graculin and I, Rob, are over here at a crashed LGV with one of these dynamic events, defending it from the not the Chosen, although maybe they are the Chosen.
It's okay, bandits.
Bandits. So talk a bit about the dynamic events and why they were added, and sort of how that's coming along.
So dynamic events has actually been a focus of ours almost from the very beginning. Our ability to serve and make you understand that these are dynamic is something that we're improving even as we speak. Like, we're still working on our tools, adding abilities to make these truly dynamic, and being able to be influenced by where you drop them in the world. Well, the real question is, why dynamic versus static content? And if you want to ask that question, you can look at other static content-based games and the experience of. So, like, let's pick one that users might know a lot about. So, like, World of Warcraft is a great game, right? It's a MMO. It's got a lot of content, but it's static content.
Yes.
I go through the zone, I do all the quests, I kill the monsters, and then I'm done with that zone. And that seems like a waste to us, right? Because you're not getting any more use out of the zone. All the art, everything that you put into that it's a one-time use. What dynamic events allow us to do is to reuse that stuff in fresh and unique ways every time that you play it. And you can kind of look at shooters in general, like TF2 is, well, it's a static map, but the missions are dynamic because they're dynamic based on every time you play something different happens. And that something different is delivered by the players themselves. That's why, you know, he's going to move differently when I'm trying to shoot him in the face, and I didn't expect that. That felt fresh and unique, whereas if you're shooting at AIs and they do the same thing every time because that's what the designer dictated they were going to do, then that leaves a lot of fun on the table, you know, and it becomes uninteresting for a person after you've consumed that once. It's like, okay, I did the mission. It's going to play the same way every single time. That's boring. That's not life. What we want is variety. We want more than just Brussels sprouts on the side of our plate. You know, we want to mix in different vegetables at a rate that, you know, once we get tired of something, we want something else.
Can we have chocolate-covered bacon?
Our events is opportunities to be, you know, serving plates of food that are influenced by where you drop them in the world.
Now, when you say the events, you know, this crashed LGV, for instance, is sort of like one of the smaller events, but there's some bigger sort of like landscape-changing events you have too. They don't necessarily change the way the Earth is formed or anything like that, but they do change where it's safe for players to be. Is that right?
Yeah, that is true. You know, and so we have scales of dynamic events. You know, the smallest scale dynamic event could involve, like, you know, one NPC and one object in the world, and that's the limit of the interaction. Whereas we have other events that can leverage the one NPC and the one object, but it uses multiple NPCs and multiple objects to do more interesting things. So, for example, we have the Chosen, right? And the Chosen do things. And those things are kind of set up in the series of dynamic events. We have a drop pod that can come down, and it's going to spawn, you know, 6 assaults and maybe a juggernaut. And that, in and of itself, is interesting to an extent.
Yes.
But that's just the Brussels sprouts, right? And the way that we're thinking of this is like, okay, that's one element on the plate. And if we can mix and match those things in ways that is not, you know, a designer figuring out, oh, this is smart, but instead it's responding to the open world. Where are our players? What are they doing? Why are they doing that? And if it can intelligently respond to them in ways that, okay, well, now this chosen drop pod coming around you makes sense to you because it's more meaningful based on the overall environment that you're in.
Sorry,
Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. I got distracted because, speaking of dynamic events, a whole bunch of bandits are trying to destroy us right now.
Don't let them take your jawbones.
I don't want them to. Can we talk a little bit about the lore behind Firefall? I know you guys have been slowly sort of fleshing it out with the manga and everything like that. So what exactly is the story that we have here? For those players who don't know, I know a lot of the watchers probably do.
Mystery that players get to uncover over time. You know, what we've talked about in public is really setting the foundation of the story and the environment that you live in. You know, but unlike other, let's say your Star Wars, where you know all the elements and Darth Vader can only do certain things.
Yeah.
Our story is, well, we want our story to be your story, right? We will provide a foundation. We will provide colorization of the world, and we will provide characters that have meaning and depth and their own stories. But the real story is the story that you tell to yourself, to your friends, amongst the other story.
There we go. Where are you two at right now, Garrett and Scott?
I just invited Garrett.
Okay.
I didn't
Mount
see
that
the
thing.
invite.
Because I'd like for Scott to show us around, basically, give us a tour of some of the new stuff that maybe a lot of folks haven't seen yet.
Where are you guys at?
We are out south of.
I guess send me an invite. Let me join you.
I cannot remember how to take an invite when somebody invites us. What's your name again, Scott?
Corn Boy. I know it's pretty serious.
Corn Boy.
Scott, I liked your. You looked like an Iron Warrior from 40K with your stripes on your on your guy.
It's the candy stripe war paint.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's kind of like my danger zone. You don't want to stand near me.
Well, if you guys are currently grouped, you have to split your group so we can invite you. Oh, Thumper just landed on me. And
That was
killed me.
awesome, by the way.
Awesome.
I can't even help you up.
We are not grouped, and now I see the invite.
So this is actually a Thumper.
Which landed on
Which
top
landed
of me,
right
by the way.
on. I had the camera pointed right at you. These Thumpers are resource, I guess, gatherers for players, and he sent it right away again. He didn't even wait. Why was? Maybe he's new. Anyway, Thumpers come down on plots of land and they mine resources for you, but they also cause a ton of noise and attract all the wildlife and everything, and it gets progressively more dangerous to let it sit there.
Yeah, Thumpers are a great example of a dynamic encounter for us, and they're kind of our simplest one. You know, what Thumpers allow you to do is, I want to do something, and I want to do it here.
Mm-hmm.
And the doing something there is meaningful to you based on where you do it and why you do it. And it really kind of makes the world more interesting. It opens up the world as a collection of possibilities rather than a collection of absolutes. Because no longer are you constrained to doing a quest with static NPCs that are always standing in the same spot. The world is constantly changing, evolving, and responding to what you do or what you don't do. And that's similar to like a multiplayer PvP experience, and why people gravitate toward playing those, because it's fresh every single time. You know, your opponents are doing different things. They're responding to what you do in different ways, and it's that interaction that makes things interesting. And that's really what we're trying to provide in the world of Firefall, is we're taking an AI world and making it more interactive and dynamic to try to approximate what it feels like to deal with other real thinking entities that are out there.
Now that reminds me that one of the things you guys are doing that's pretty unique in the space, I think, is the fact that you are letting players sort of choose how the game opens up, how it evolves, and what zones get open and things like that. How is that going to work once the game is actually live?
So that's a good question. How do we evolve the world, and what controls are players going to have on it?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of cool there. There's a ton of cool there, some of which I can tell you about, but I don't want to spill beans spill those beans. The short answer is that your choices should have ramifications on how the world evolves, right? And how you make those choices is what makes Firefall unique and interesting.
Yeah.
There are other games that you can look at in terms of being able to do choices that were interesting. And, you know, we've looked at those games and drawn inspiration from them, but we've also been inspired by them and wanted to make it better.
Of course.
You know, and there are other games that had choices that had world-changing ramifications. You know, going back to some of the earliest ones that I can think of was The Sleeper and EverQuest, right? That was kind of a big choice. Well, either you kill them or you don't was the only choice that players had, and so the real choice was being first. And lucky enough, you know, I was able to participate with a group that did that, so I was able to experience that back in the day. Another choice came later with the Gates of Encourage, you know, in WoW. And it involved players contributing a bunch of resources to affect the game world, but still there wasn't a choice, right? It was either do it or don't. It wasn't this or that.
Like a whole lot of bandages.
And so what we would like to do is give users a real choice with a tangible outcome that has ramifications to how the world advances. Now, without spilling any of the details, there's a lot there, right? And if you look at our world, and our world is serving resources, and you expand the world in a certain way, then you can extrapolate what that might mean.
Now that's interesting to me, because you can look at the map and you can see. I don't want to get this wrong. I should have boned up. Is it the melding that's blocking everything out?
Yeah, the melding is kind of a soft barrier, and the melding is part of our story. It's this sentient kind of an energy cloud that emerged from the rift that opened when the Arc Lake tried to jump.
Okay.
And so the melding is kind of almost a weird character that we wanted the players to be able to manipulate, but you're not really sure what it is or why it's here yet. And that's part of the interesting component of Firefall is like, well, what is the melding? What is it doing to the Chosen? What is it doing to me? And why should I care? And that kind of sets the stage for the story of Firefall and the user's story about how they experience those things and what they do with them.
My turn to die. I ran right into the Thumper area.
Good job.
So, Now, my question for you, I guess, surrounding that melding stuff, as you see, we're mostly in like a tropical setting. Will this be the sort of only climate and area that we see in Firefall, or is that dependent on what the players do, or do you have sort of a plan that you guys are working on in the background?
So Firefall is set on Earth.
Yes.
Right now, you're looking at Brazil.
Yeah.
Our plan is to have locations in the game that are more than just Brazil. Now, without giving away any of those future locations, we have the whole Earth data model. And so we plan on using a lot of the Earth. Different environments, different mechanics to those environments is something that will provide fresh and unique experiences around those locations. Right now it's like you're not landing on snow, but what if you were?
I would like that, actually. I think snow regions are probably my favorite part of games.
Fan.
Yeah, but
I'm with you, Bill. Yeah.
And it would just
Snow regions.
I'm just curious to see what monsters we'd see there. So I see somebody. I do believe that Scott's flying right there ahead of me. There goes Corn Boy.
All right, I see it now.
There we go.
Where are you guys?
We've tried inviting you, and for some reason I'm handicapped, and I can't. I keep getting a message that says group invite forwarded or something like that.
Are you on the same server as us? There are multiple instances, so if you're not on the same instance as us, try typing /join leader in chat, and that will warp you to our instance.
Oh. At least not in a group.
So all you guys out there that are trying to play with your friends, if you're standing in the same spot and you can't find them, form a squad, type /join leader, and that will warp you to them.
I keep inviting him anyway.
How come I can't respond to you, Greg? I see your invitation.
If you hit O and then scroll down to accept last invitation, you'll get it. One thing I also want to ask is really what's the goal behind this coming sort of open beta weekend? Is it just to test the servers? Is it really to sort of showcase the game over the course of a weekend? Some of the new content. Is there a focus for the weekend test?
So our open beta tests they're kind of twofold. One is to stress test, right? As we're getting closer and closer to open beta, we need to push our servers to more of their theoretical maximums. And we've been finding those and fixing them as our users can attest. And so taking a kind of a shot of or shout out from Gmail's evolution, we were really interested in how they evolved Gmail, through kind of an invite system, because it managed their growth to a level that they could grow with it.
Yeah.
So we're trying the same things. We've been trying to manage our growth and being able to minimize, having a bunch of players come in and totally kill our servers because we didn't have the scalability plans in place for that. And so our goal is to think about it, try it, break it, figure out why it broke, fix it, and then go to the next level. Now, and we're going to continue to do that until we've resolved all of our scalability issues to the point that now, if we go full open beta and a butt ton of players come and play the game, they're not breaking the servers and making it unplayable for everyone, because that would not be fun, right? And that's really kind of our underlying goal, is making sure that our technology behind this game can support the volume of players that want to play it all at the same time.
So now the message, of course, is still when's release, when it's ready, right?
Yeah, I mean, when it is released, I don't know that date, so I couldn't give that date to you either. The only dates that I can really even start to talk about are the dates that are right in front of us. And that's kind of how we operate as a company. Way back in the day, Mark, when we were first trying to figure out how do we get stuff into the world, like we had a terrain system that would draw terrain. We could put textures on it, but that was it. And our goal was, okay, well, let's not make full game, because that's too big, that's a scary thing. And instead the goal was, let's get a rock in the game, right? And that seems like a very achievable goal of, okay, that seems pretty simple. The artist makes the rock, the tool can take the rock and munge the format for it so the game could read it, and then the game can take that and then draw it somewhere in the world. And that sounds pretty simple, but in reality that's pretty complicated when you're talking about game engines, files, and making that stuff render. And so we take that same concept and are extrapolating it out to the full game, and then we take that philosophy to heart. It's like, okay, everything that we add to the game feels like a rock to us, right? We have to get it into the game, make sure that it works, and it does everything that it needs to do. And once we're sure that the rock works, then we can move on and add a tree next to the rock, and then water next to the tree that's next to the rock, and it gets cooler and cooler and cooler. And that's kind of our overall development philosophy for Firefall.
It's got to be starting to feel pretty good, though. I mean, you see the game. I'm trying to think. It was 2 or 3 years ago at PAX when you unveiled it, and now you know it's sort of getting closer and closer to the point where more people are going to really sort of be let in to play it. You've got a lot more stuff. I remember when it first opened up, I got in through shady dealings. I will say, I don't know. A friend invited me. But there wasn't much to do in Copacabana. There was mostly just like the PvP aspect, and then slowly but surely, I've been watching this game grow into like this massive beast of a world. How do you feel about it compared to where you started and where you are now, so many years ago?
I'm always wanting more, right? I mean, it's like we have huge ideas about where this game could be and what it should be, and we envision that, and we want it now. You know, and we're as hungry for this game as our community is, and over time we'll get there, but it's going to take us a while to achieve all of the goals that we want to achieve. And the main thing is to make sure that we're doing the right things for the game that make sense for right now. And if you look at the evolution of Firefall in our beta, I mean, it's really kind of interesting. We started off with you could play Sunken Harbor. That's all you could play, and it was only for 3 hours on a weekend. And then we decided, okay, well, in order to test our open world, right, and this was our open world test, we released one zone that had one creature. It had mosquitoes, and it was Redwood Forest. And that was a huge improvement to the game. No longer are you just playing Sunken Harbor, but now there's this social space, and there's stuff to kill that gives me XP. And as simple as that was, people went nuts. And then so we added more. And we added more, and we added more, and we continue to add more and improve, listen, change, iterate, make it better, and that's kind of our philosophy, is that, and we will continue to do this as long as there are players who are willing to work with us to make this a better experience.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk real briefly, because we're running late on time. I know I had it was my fault with the server, but I don't want to cut you short. Let's talk about the PvP. It is going to be a very heavily esports focused game. I mean, you can stream directly from Firefall now in the beta. You don't have to use XSplit or anything like that. You don't have to use anything that'll crash your computer. You can just stream right to Twitch. So is that part of the setup that you're going for with esports? Is there still that goal to make Firefall sort of a big esports game?
Yeah. I mean, so is it only going to be an esports game? Absolutely not.
Of course.
Will it have a huge esports component that we're going to leverage the crap out of? Yes. And so some of the changes that we're doing to the game right now have met with some consternation by our community. And so talking about esports and PvP and balance, like one of our short-term things that we're doing is to try to equalize frames as they pertain to PvP.
You'll have standard frames in the PvP, is that correct?
Yeah, and we've received a lot of feedback as a brand new player, it sucks to go play PvP in Firefall with somebody that's printed their purple sniper rifle and you can't compete with it. Which we understand, we've listened to, and we're providing a better environment for that. And that's definitely more of a competitive focus to where maybe my time and my resource collection in the world isn't something that dictates whether or not I win or lose, which is okay. If it's pure skill, let's make it about pure skill, and that's fine, and we're definitely doing that. But is that the only type of PvP that will exist in Firefall? No.
Awesome.
Scott, real quick, if you could just elaborate, like, what is your biggest challenge for the team in terms of PvP content? Is it game balance, or is it more like coming up with competitive scenarios or something like that?
Our biggest challenge is time. It's not about whether or not we could do it or would we want to do it. It's can we do it, and should we do it, right? It's a should versus time. And that's really where we spend a lot of our time is should we do it, arguing about the whys, the why nots, and then ultimately can we do it based on our ability to produce this, whatever the change is, within a time frame that is acceptable to our community. And that's one of our real challenges, is that we're a small team, We're not like Blizzard where we have, a butt ton of people that we can just throw at it. It's like, we have a small team that is very passionate, and since we are passionate, we care, and we spend more time working on stuff than maybe some other studios would. But that's what makes it special for us, right? Quality, the bar of quality is something that we care about, and we don't want to shirk on that. Now, with our team size and our shifting focus, sometimes that means that we move on to something else before we finish it. But we're reaching the point now that we're looking at, okay, well, if we're going to call our game open beta, what are the features that need to be completely in and completely polished in order to unleash the floodgates? And that's really kind of our focus right now, which is increasing the stickiness of the open world, resolving the balance in PvP, and making sure that it's fun to play with your friends, fixing all the social features. Once we have those things solved, then we'll feel like, okay, now we're ready to start letting the masses bring their friends in and really listening to even a larger group of players tell us that Brussels sprouts suck and that we need to fix Brussels sprouts. And we'll listen, and we'll fix them again.
Okay, and real quick, one last thing. What can players do to get in this weekend starting, I believe, tomorrow night? Is that right?
For free beta?
For free beta, yeah. What do they have to do?
Just go to the website, sign up, and you will be able to play.
Ta-da! And once the weekend's over, will they get a chance to get into the closed beta at any time, or?
They will, and there are two opportunities to get in closed beta. One is, and this is the free option, make friends in the game. And if you make a friend in the game that is not part of the free beta weekend, they will more than likely have a beta invite that they can give to you, and you can get in free.
Ooh.
Now, that the accountants are pissed, the other way is you can buy a Founders Pack, and that will give you beta access as well.
Fantastic. And briefly, real quick, what is the one thing you want to tell your players, whether they've been in the beta the longest time or those who are sort of waiting to get their chance, you want them to know about Firefall in 2013?
The one thing that I want you to know about Firefall.
Just one.
That's an open-ended question because there's so much I want to say to so many different people about different things. But if the one thing I had to say about Firefall and sum it up in a sentence is, jetpacks are awesome. It's fun to shoot your friends in the face.
And it really is. I got to say, Scott, the game has come a very long way since when it started, but that's sort of the point, right? It just keeps getting better, and I really can't wait to see what's ahead for you guys. They will, hopefully this weekend a lot of people will get a chance to see it for themselves, and God willing, they'll also break the servers.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry again for the technical issues, everybody, Scott included. But I hope that once this beta weekend's over and we're on to the next one, that maybe you'll join us again for some actual gameplay. You can show us around the world a bit. How's that sound?
That sounds awesome. I'd love to walk you through our new systems that are coming online.
That is exactly what we'll do. So everybody back at home, everybody watching, thank you for tuning in to MMOFTW. Sorry once again for the crashing. I swear to God, I'll fix it one of these days. We will have the video, the whole combined thing, up on YouTube after the broadcast, and over the course of the weekend it'll be highlighted on MMORPG.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitch at MMORPG.com without the dot. Follow us on YouTube, same thing, Facebook, Twitter, and even Google Plus at just MMORPG. Thanks for coming, thanks for watching, and Scott, you sir, you have a fantastic game, and it just keeps getting better.
Thank you, sirs, and keep with us, right? We're in this together.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. We'll